When my children were young, one of the sweetest moments of being a dad was on a Sunday morning. I would get to church early and get things set, and then as we were getting ready for service, Becky and the three kids would come through the door, and they would see me, and they would be yelling at the top of their voice, "Daddy!" And they would come running down the aisle, and we would have hugs and kisses, and it was a great moment. In that moment, you had a sense of what it meant to be known by someone else and to know them and to enjoy that relationship and intimacy. Now, when our family comes to Cedar Rapids, we'll go to the airport and we'll wait for them to come through the gate just past the checkpoint. And when the plane lets go of the people, you'll see some that will come through and go off to the car rental aisle. No one knows them. They don't know anyone. They're just on their way. There'll be somebody else come, and there will be a family waiting for them, and there will be warm greetings. And you're touched by it, but it's not for you, and it's not the same. And then finally, our family will come through. Often it'll be our daughter and son-in-law, and we will welcome and greet one another, and we will know what it means to be known and to know, and that intimacy of relationship. Jesus says today, "I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me." Being a Christian is about this intimacy of relationship, not just simply knowing God, but this experience of being known by God and to see our own life from that fresh perspective of God's grace. It's more than just simply an information or knowledge of the head, but it is knowledge of our heart and of our soul. I remember the first time I met my wife. We were at a hospital orientation session. There were about 8 or 10 other people getting oriented to go to work, and she and I actually worked in a geriatric psych ward together. Now imagine that. But anyway, we were ready for anything. I remember that first moment when looking down and we're sharing our names and looking down at the end and thinking, this is interesting. But it's one thing to get to know a person by name. It's another thing to fall in love and to share something of the deepest of yourself, and for that other person to receive and to know you and to accept you. And that experience of finding out who you are in the eyes of another as they get to know you. This kind of knowledge, it's so much more than just simply an intellectual knowledge. It is that knowledge of the heart. So what does it mean to know Jesus in this way? For him, not only simply to be our good shepherd in some objective or abstract kind of way, but for Jesus to say, "I know my own, and my own know me." And perhaps even more, what does it mean for each of us to know ourselves in the eyes of our good shepherd, to know ourselves in the sight of the gospel and God's grace? Psalm 23 provides a window into that kind of knowing. And we're going to take a look at some of those verses from Psalm 23 to kind of unpack what it means for Jesus to be our good shepherd and to know God and to be known by God. We begin with "The Lord is my shepherd." Notice what it doesn't say. It doesn't say the Lord is a shepherd or some kind of shepherd, but rather my shepherd. It is about relationship and an intimacy of knowing. In part, it's just simply a description of how shepherding works. A sheep will learn to hear the voice and timbre of the shepherd that calls them. In fact, you can bring together 3 or 4 different flocks of sheep, and they can spend an afternoon together, but when it's time to go back home, the shepherd will call out, and each of the sheep will know which is the voice, who to follow. It isn't just simply there are a bunch of shepherds out there, but my shepherd is there. It's like children who play outside at night, and supper time comes and the voice calls out, supper time, and each one of you as a kid would say, "Oh, my mom's calling, I gotta go." You knew the voice, and you knew who called you. "The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not want." What does it mean not to want? I shall not want. I mean, you think about our life is, structured and organized by needs and wants. We seek community in friendship. We seek love in family. We seek meaning in our work. We have these basic needs of life. We're reminded of this all the time. My parents are in the process of downsizing from a big house to an apartment as they get ready to move into a kind of like a retirement community. And so they're kind of sorting through all the boxes in their life, and you realize all the stuff that you have stored away you really didn't need, and now you got to figure out what to do with it. Well, Becky and I were kind of looking at our house and saying, well, let's maybe get a little bit of a jump on that. What do we got? Well, we got a lot of pictures. If I got rid of books and pictures, we would just have a few pieces of furniture. I don't know. Anyway, so how do you sort of reduce that? I thought, well, let's look at some photo scanners. So I looked on some, the internet for some photo scanners, and then I decided, I don't know. But you know what? My life is now haunted by advertisements for photo scanners. I can't go to a newspaper article. I can't go to any page without, would you like a photo scanner? How about this one? What about that one? Always reminded of my need or my want, and they will not let me go. When I think about what it means to say, I shall not want, faith recognizes there is a deeper need and want that only God can provide. A need for grace and mercy. A need for my life to be embraced by the unconditional love of God. A need to see my life from the perspective of God's love, that it might put into order all the other needs and wants in my life. I shall not want, it's a deep narrative in the Scriptures. It was Walter Brueggemann who pointed out sort of this, point-counterpoint argument that works through the Scriptures, and that is between the world's myth of scarcity and God's liturgy or song of abundance. That myth of scarcity says all the time, you don't have enough, and you need more. You either got to buy more, or purchase more, or produce more. It's in the narrative of the Old Testament that Pharaoh said to the people of Israel, more bricks. You will be valued if you make me more bricks. But more is never enough. I want you to think about how this works. I want you to put out your hand. And pick a hand, either one, doesn't matter. And I got two. And on the one hand, I want you to identify 5 things that God has provided for you. 5 blessings in your life. It may be family. It may be the grace of God. Just imagine, and if you can't get the 5, in the time, give you 3, but just look at that in your hand. 5 blessings. Now, with the other hand, I want you to identify 5 wants, 5 needs, 5 things you don't have. And if you need $1 billion, okay, that can be one. But, think about other things, 5 wants. Now put both hands side by side. The blessings and the wants. And ask yourself, which is the one that is more important? Which is the one that you could not live without? If you took away the wants, you would still have the blessings. But if you took away the blessings and only went for the wants, the scarcities, your life would be less. The song of God is a song of thanks and praise, a liturgy of abundance. The internet and our consumer culture only works by this list, the list of things that we do not have. And yet God says, for life to be full, give thanks and praise for what God has given. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The Lord makes me lie down in green pastures and leads me beside still waters. Really, the rest of the psalm is simply sort of a variation on that one phrase, I shall not want, and how God provides for us throughout life. Oftentimes, those associations in the Bible are straightforward. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. Elsewhere, Jesus says, I come that you might have life and have it in abundance. God seeks what is best for us. But we recognize that in our life, what is best often does not come, or often comes with challenge. And so the psalmist continues, even though I walk through the darkest valley. Events happen, sometimes of our own making, we bear the consequences of our actions, sometimes, oftentimes, not of our making. Life happens. It just simply is what life is. And apart from faith, we might look at those times of valleys as sort of times of God's absence, times in which we are somehow on our own, alone. And yet the Scriptures tell us again and again that God shows His strength for us, not by keeping us out of the valley, but by being with us in the valley, by walking with us and providing for us and leading us through. The psalmist continues, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. For the psalmist, God's strength in life often happens in ways which are difficult to measure apart from faith. As a community of faith, we measure the presence of God, the working of God in our lives each and every Sunday when we confess our faith. And how do we put it? We say, I believe in the Holy Spirit, the communion of saints, the people of God, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection, and the life everlasting. These are the real ways in which I know that God is with me, that He is my shepherd, and that I can see and learn and get to know my life in the context of His calling and His presence. And then the psalmist concludes, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Someone once observed that word for shall follow is the same word that is sometimes translated shall pursue me. And I thought that was interesting. It's not just simply that Jesus follows me, but rather that He pursues me with grace. He pursues me with His love. Jesus will not let me go. He will not give up on me. He will not lose interest in me, but He pursues me. We began the sermon with the voice the children hear at supper time. Supper is ready. The voice of family and people that we love in that moment when our name is called out and we know them, but even more so, we are known by them and we understand ourselves in them. I want you to think about what would happen if Jesus pursued you and caught up to you and called you by name. And if He called you, what tone of voice would He use? Would He be the principal catching up to you? Or would He be the good shepherd who calls you and welcomes you? And then when you turn and you see this Jesus who has pursued you and you called His name, what tone of voice would you use? Something objective or something endearing? Dear friends, He will not stop pursuing you until you experience God's grace and you know this. The Lord is my shepherd, and He knows me, and I know Him, and it is good. Amen.